The last chance meeting. The Galactic Council. Hall stood like a mountain of glass and steel. Inside, leaders of over 200 alien species sat in their glowing seats. Each wore their own symbol of power. Some had golden robes, others armor, but all their eyes turned when the large metal doors opened. The humans entered, slow and silent. Leading them was Captain Elric Graves, tall, calm, and dressed in Earth's navy black uniform. He didn't bow, didn't smile, just walked straight to the center of the hall. Council Speaker Zarnak rose from his floating chair. He was from the Zyreal species, blue-skinned with 4 eyes that blinked nervously. "Captain Graves," he said in a shaky voice, "we thank you for coming to this final negotiation." Elric nodded once. "Let's get to it." Tension filled the room. For months, the Council had tried to control Earth's rise in power. They demanded limits on technology, on fleet size, on colonization. They feared humans, feared how fast they advanced, but Earth had said nothing, only listened, and kept growing. Now this was the last meeting. The Council thought they could finally bring humans under control. They were wrong. Speaker Zarnak continued. In the name of peace and unity, the Galactic Council proposes the following. Earth must pause all military expansion, share its scientific research, and submit to Council review. He smiled. Do this, and you will remain a respected member of the galactic community. Elric looked around the room slowly. He saw faces filled with expectation, fear, pride, and greed. He waited a few seconds, then stepped forward. No, he said clearly, calmly. The council chamber went silent. Even the translator bot stopped for a moment. Zarnak blinked. Captain, perhaps you did not hear. I heard, Elric replied, and I said no. Whispers filled the air. Some shouted in their own language. Others stood in protest. An ambassador from the Kalari race slammed his fist on the table. Then you choose war, he growled. Elric didn't flinch. We choose freedom, he said. Earth will not be ruled by fear, not yours, not anyone's. A tall green alien stood. You cannot survive without the council. Elric smiled just a little. We've done more than survive without you. He tapped a small button on his wrist and a hologram appeared above him. It showed Earth's newest fleet. 12 warships, massive and sleek, each glowing with unknown energy. The hologram zoomed in on the name of the lead ship, HSS Unity. Every sensor in the council hall scanned the image. The readings were shocking. Someone whispered, that ship is stronger than 5 of ours combined. Elric ended the display. He looked at Speaker Zarnak. We came here today to give you an answer. And that answer is no. He turned, and his team followed him toward the exit. Council guards blocked the way for a second, but stepped aside when they saw the look in his eyes. Just before walking out, Elric paused. He turned his head slightly and said, next time you call a meeting, ask yourselves, what will you offer us? The doors closed behind him, leaving the council in stunned silence. Minutes passed, then voices exploded in anger, fear, confusion. Stop them, someone shouted. Sanctions, yelled another. Prepare our fleets, one screamed. But deep down, many of them knew. This wasn't just a political move. This was the beginning of a new age, the age where humans didn't ask for permission, they just walked away, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The word no still echoed in the council hall. Even hours after the humans left, it hung in the air like smoke. No translation error, no misunderstanding, just one powerful rejection, clear and final. Across the galaxy, that single word moved faster than light. Every major news channel played the clip. Captain Graves says no to the Galactic Council. It played over and over, again and again. On Valter 6, a planet ruled by merchants, trade suddenly stopped. On Zinkara, a military world, sirens began to scream. Ships turned inward, shields went up, and weapons came online. But Earth stayed quiet. No speeches, no threats, just silence. And that silence made the galaxy tremble. Inside the council's war chamber, the Elder Six gathered, private, hidden, untouchable. They were the true rulers, the ones behind the curtains. For the first time in 5 centuries, they all looked uncertain. What do they want? Growled Elder Vale of the Trakari. They want to be left alone, whispered Elder Mira, a rare voice of reason. But no one walks away from the council, spat Elder Dornak, pounding his clawed fist on the table. They just did, replied a younger voice from the shadows. All heads turned. It was Valen, the council's intelligence director, human-born but loyal to the galaxy. I warned you, Valen said quietly. I told you Earth was different. They don't bluff, they don't beg, and they definitely don't bend. A long pause. Then Elder Mira spoke again. Do we know what Earth is planning next? Valen shook his head. No. He brought up a display, images of human colonies, fleets, research stations. Some were blank, others filled with red warnings. Sensor access denied. They've gone dark, he said. We can't track their movements anymore. Not with our tech. Panic sparked behind every calm face. Losing control of a species wasn't new, but losing Trey. Look of them? That was terrifying. Back on Earth's moon base, Captain Elric Graves stood alone on a platform. He watched Earth rotate slowly below him. Blue, beautiful, dangerous. A young officer approached. Sir, message from the Terran Union Council. They've approved the walkout. Elric nodded. It's already begun, he said. Now let's see who follows. Because this wasn't just about Earth anymore. Across the stars, smaller species had seen the moment. They saw a human look the galaxy's greatest powers in the eye and say no. And now whispers turned into quiet rebellions. A farming world in the Rin Belt declared independence. A minor race from the southern rim rejected council taxes. Pirate clans sent offers of alliance. To Earth, the council had never looked weaker. The humans hadn't fired a single shot, but already, the galaxy was shaking. On one distant planet, a young alien girl asked her teacher, "Why are the humans so angry?" The teacher paused, then said, "They're not angry. They're just done." A sleek black ship glided through the stars near Earth's outer defense line. It belonged to the Council's secret intelligence division, hidden under fake trade signals, no flag, no markings, just shadows and silence. Inside, Commander Urel of the Zarnari sat stiff in her chair. Her skin shimmered with cold scales, her eyes locked on the screens ahead. "Do not engage," she whispered to her crew. "Just observe." Their mission was simple. Get close, scan Earth's fleet, and disappear. The Council needed answers, and spies were cheaper than war. As the ship drifted closer to Luna's dark side, the crew picked up nothing. No signals, no heat trails. It was as if the space around Earth had turned empty. "Where are their patrols?" one officer asked nervously. "Gone?" Urel narrowed her eyes. "No, they're not gone," she said slowly. "They're watching." And she was right. Thousands of kilometers away, hidden inside a cloud of artificial dust, a human satellite opened its eyes. Its design was unknown to any alien scanner. Smooth, organic-looking, like a black pearl wrapped in energy. It didn't send alerts. It didn't fire missiles. It simply blinked once and vanished from view. Back on the Council spy ship, systems began to flicker, one by one. The lights dimmed, the sensors froze. The crew shouted in panic, buttons stopped responding, and then, in the dead silence, the stars disappeared. From the Council's central command hub, the spy ship's signal cut off completely. No distress beacon, no explosion, no trace. One moment it was there, the next, nothing. High Lord Sorvak, head of Galactic Security, slammed his clawed hand on the desk. "This is impossible," he hissed. "Even human weapons can't erase a ship from existence." But they had. Whispers spread like wildfire. Council officers whispered of ghost fleet protocols, of human tech that could blind the universe, of new weapons that used gravitational silence to erase heat and motion, and worst of all, Earth hadn't said a word, no message, no claim, no threat, only silence. Back on Earth, deep in a base buried under Antarctica's ice, Captain Elric Graves stood before a large screen. On it, the Council's missing ship spun slowly in a stasis field, its crew frozen, unharmed, but offline. "Should we send them back, sir?" his second-in-command asked. Elric thought for a long moment, then said, "No. Let the galaxy wonder what happened. Because that was the plan, not war, not destruction, just uncertainty. Let fear do the work. Let the Council's own people start asking questions, and they did. In the Council's meeting hall, voices rose. If humans are hiding such technology, why didn't we know? Who approved the spying mission? What else are they capable of? Speaker Zarnak tried to stay calm, but cracks showed in his voice. We must re-establish control, he said. We must remind Earth of its place. But no one believed him anymore. Not truly. Far out in Council territory, a small planet named Drella 5 quietly declared neutrality. Its leaders sent a private message to Earth. We wish to talk, not with the Council, but with you. And Earth replied with just 2 words. You're welcome. One by one, the stars began to shift, not with fire or invasion, but with quiet loyalty, silent alliances, and fear of the unknown. For the first time in recorded galactic history, power was changing hands. Without war, just one vanished ship, one refused deal, and one species that refused to bow. From the shadows of space, Earth watched, not laughing, not taunting, just waiting, because when you control fear, you don't need to fire a single shot. In the middle of the Galactic Council chamber stood a single empty chair. It belonged to Earth, and it had been empty for 4 days. At first, the Council left it untouched, hoping the humans would return. But now, the empty seat looked like a wound that wouldn't heal. The walls of the chamber were lined with flags from every species. But all eyes kept returning to that one blank space where Earth's banner used to fly. Speaker Zarnak stepped forward, his robes dragging across the polished floor. He lifted his staff and struck it once. The sound echoed like thunder, but no one spoke. Everyone was waiting. We call this session to order, Zarnak said slowly. There is one matter only, the humans. The room tensed instantly. Some looked ready for war, others for surrender, but no one wanted to be the first to say what everyone feared. Finally, a cold, sharp voice broke the silence. It came from Admiral Urek of the Tharnax. We must remove Earth's seat, he said. If they refuse to return, they forfeit their voice. Gasps, whispers, hisses. The suggestion was shocking. No species had ever been removed from the Council by force. Ambassador Valari of the gentle Arun shook her silver head. No, she said, Earth earned that seat. They were invited here because they saved 2 of our colonies from extinction. Then they should act like allies, growled Urek. They walk away and leave silence behind. An old creature with many eyes leaned forward. It was Elder Tiyun of the Scholars' Circle. He had lived through 6 galactic wars, and his voice carried weight. Tell me, Tiyun said slowly, which is louder? Words spoken in anger or words never spoken at all? The chamber grew quiet. No one had an answer. Back on Earth's orbital station, Captain Elric Graves stood before a holographic table. Floating above it were intercepted messages, council debates, threats, confusion. One after another, they begged for Earth's return, but Earth said nothing. A young officer approached him. Sir, the council is preparing to strip us of membership. Elric didn't flinch. They can strip a title, he said, but they can't strip what we've become. The officer hesitated. Should we respond? No, Graves said calmly. Let them speak to an empty seat. Across the galaxy, the silence grew heavier. It crept into news broadcasts, into political speeches, into dinner tables. On hundreds of worlds, people asked the same question. What did we do to make the humans walk away? And worse, what happens if they never come back? In a small border system, a council survey ship approached a human mining colony. It sent a polite request to enter orbit. The response came, not from the humans, but from the silence. Their request was ignored. The council ship waited for 2 hours, then turned back. On board, the captain muttered, they didn't even say no. That's when it began to spread. The fear, not of war, not of invasion, but of being forgotten. Back in the council hall, a motion passed. By a narrow vote, Earth's seat was officially marked as inactive. The flag was removed, the chair left cold and gray, but no one celebrated. No one clapped or roared because deep down they all knew they hadn't won anything. They had only confirmed their loss. Somewhere in deep space, a private message flashed across the stars. It was sent from a neutral world to Earth. 5 words typed in shaky hands. We want to stand with you. Earth didn't reply. Not with words, but 3 days later, the same world received a shipment of clean water filters, medical supplies, and food. No name, no bill, no announcement, just a silent act of kindness. That's when others began to follow. Small systems, ignored by the Council, began reaching out to Earth, not for trade, but by walking away and letting the galaxy feel the cold of its absence. The empty seat was no longer a symbol of rebellion. It was a reminder that Earth didn't need the Council to matter, but the Council might need Earth more than it ever knew. Deep in Sector 531, near a lonely Council outpost, something appeared. It wasn't on any radar. It didn't give off heat. It didn't make sound. One moment the sky was empty. The next, a dark shape hovered above the planet, silent, motionless, massive. The Council guards stationed below panicked. Their scanners screamed errors. Their sensors went blind. The object didn't move, didn't transmit, didn't fire. It just existed. Commander Lurvek, a 4-armed Threxian, stared at the monitors in disbelief. He had survived 2 wars, seen a black hole up close, but never felt fear like this. "Identify it," he barked. His team tried, but every scan returned the same message. Data unknown. Signal null. Origin undetected. Then, without warning, the object pulsed. Just once, a red light lit the sky. Not violent, not explosive. Just one brief, silent wave that turned the sky crimson for exactly 1.6 seconds. And then it was gone. No attack, no words, just a single act of presence. Council Command received the report 10 minutes later. They scrambled fleets, summoned analysts, questioned every species on the contact list. Was it human? Someone finally asked. No one answered, because everyone already knew the truth. It wasn't a ship. It was a statement, not an invasion, but a reminder. You don't see us unless we want you to. On Earth, Captain Elric Graves stood in a quiet observation dome above the Arctic Circle. Below him, a new human prototype ship hovered in the ice winds, stealth black, no lights, no name. "Did they notice?" he asked. A technician beside him replied, "They noticed." Elric nodded. "Good," he said. "Let them feel what silence tastes like." Back in the Council Hall, the footage looped again and again. They watched that red glow in the sky like it was a warning from the gods. "We must respond," yelled a military delegate. "With what?" someone whispered. "We don't even know what it was." Ambassador Valari stood slowly. She was tired. Her silver skin looked dim under the lights. "Perhaps that's the point," she said. "We pushed them out of these halls, and now they walk in places we cannot reach." A message arrived during the meeting. It wasn't from Earth. It was from a fringe world called Talisar 4. The message was short. "We just received medical drones from an unknown source, silently marked with Earth symbol. No words, no conditions, just help." The Council members froze. They were being outpaced not by firepower, but by purpose. Humans weren't fighting, they were choosing. Back in deep space, the black ship drifted again, this time near a Council-aligned military factory. The same red pulse flashed across the stars, sensors failed, alarms triggered, missiles armed automatically, but never fired. By the time ships scrambled to intercept, the object had vanished again, but the message was clear. Earth could come and go as it pleased, see everything, touch nothing, and still shake the heart of the galaxy. Council Speaker Zarnak sat alone in his private chamber later that night. He poured himself a drink with shaking hands. His assistant entered quietly and asked, "Shall I schedule another peace message to Earth?" Zarnak stared at the red glow replaying on his personal screen, then slowly said, "No. Send nothing. Because if they are not speaking," he added softly, "then it means we are still being tested, and outside the reach of Council eyes, across broken borders and new alliances, more worlds began reaching out, not to the Council, but to Earth and Earths. Earth answered not with speeches or demands, but with silent ships, unseen hands, and gifts with no names attached, because sometimes the greatest power is not in what you say, but in what you choose to leave unsaid. It started quietly, not with warships, not with rebellions, but with a missing report. A Council transport loaded with rare minerals vanished between 2 trading hubs. No distress call, no explosion, no trace. Then a research lab on Varnox 3 went dark. The scientists inside had defected. left behind only a single message. We're going where knowledge is free. Council leadership tried to control the news. They called it minor instability. They blamed pirates, systems failures, solar flares, but everyone knew what it really was. Earth hadn't fired a single weapon, and yet, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Inside the council chamber, panic turned into poison. Member species accused each other of betrayal. Meetings grew shorter, security tighter, and the human seat, still empty, looked more like a throne than a vacancy. Speaker Zarnak stood at the center once again, but this time his voice was hoarse, desperate. We must present unity, he said. If Earth sees our weakness, they will move against us. Elder Tian rose slowly. No, he said. Earth already saw our weakness, and they didn't attack. Silence fell. Because it was true, Earth didn't need to conquer. The Council was doing it to itself. Out in the colonies, entire fleets began defecting. Commanders left their posts, choosing to serve under the flag of the human accord. A quiet, growing alliance Earth never officially announced. Systems once loyal to the Council now paid tribute to Earth in the form of resources, data, and allegiance. One by one, stars changed color on the Council's maps, blue for neutral, gold for Earth-aligned, red for resistance, and red was shrinking. On a barren world called Jareen 6, Council agents stormed a rebel broadcast tower, but the broadcast wasn't political. It was a video, showing a human engineer fixing a failing alien way. Her system for free, children cheering in the background, no flag, no military, no message, just kindness, and that terrified the Council more than any fleet could. Back on Earth's central orbital ring, Captain Elric Graves stood watching a new fleet being constructed. Silent, dark-colored ships with no names, no identifiers. Shadow class, the engineer said beside him. They move without being seen. Elric nodded. We won't need them, he said. But it's better to have shadows when others are still playing with fire. A transmission came in just then. It wasn't from the Council, it was from a world once considered too small to matter, Lunari Prime. They sent one sentence. We're leaving the Council. Will you accept us under Earth's protection? Elric's response was only one word. Yes. Meanwhile, within the Council, the cracks were now walls. Ambassadors walked out mid-meeting, some never returned. A secret memo leaked across the galaxy. Project Reconnect. Force Earth back into talks by any means necessary. The memo was signed by High Admiral Urek, the same one who had once said, no one walks away from the Council. He was wrong. They didn't just walk away. They were building a new path while the Council stood in the ruins of its pride. One Council delegate stood before the Assembly and said, we mocked them, controlled them, taxed them, and now they help our people more than we ever did. Perhaps they were never the danger, but it was too late. The machine of control had lost its oil, its screws, its purpose. It groaned, cracked, and finally stopped. On the outer rim, at the edge of known space, Earth opened its first independent galactic forum. It wasn't grand, no gold, no ceremony, just a round table with open seats and no guards at the door. Species arrived one by one. Some were small, forgotten by the Council. Others were rich, tired of the constant power plays. They came not because Earth forced them, but because Earth had earned something the Council never could. Trust. And in the heart of the old Council's capital, the main screen still showed that empty human seat, but now, it wasn't a reminder of loss. It was a monument to what the galaxy had chosen instead. Not control, not fear, but the quiet power of walking away. 100 years later, a child stood beneath the stars. He looked up from the edge of a quiet planet once ruled by the Galactic Council. Beside him, his grandfather pointed to a glowing dot in the sky. That, he said, is Earth. The boy blinked. The one that left? The old man nodded slowly. Yes, he said, and because they walked away, everything changed. In the present day, the Galactic Council building stood empty. Vines had crept over its walls, dust covered its grand marble floors. Once the center of control and power, now a quiet ruin, a drone hovered silently through the Council chamber. Its camera recorded what remained, a circle of broken chairs, and in the middle, the one seat that had stayed empty the longest. Earth's still untouched, still waiting, but Earth no longer needed it. Far across the galaxy, the Human Accord Alliance held its first open summit. It took place on a neutral moon, under a glass dome, with no weapons allowed inside. There were no banners, no species ranked above another. Every representative wore simple robes, black and white, no gold, no titles, just names. At the head of the circle sat Captain Elric Graves, now older, slower, but no less sharp. He wasn't there as a ruler. He was there as a witness. A diplomat from the Sandari species stood to speak. Long ago we were ignored, she said, forgotten by the Council. Then Earth sent us water, medicine, and peace. No demands, she added, voice shaking. Just help. Others nodded. A reptilian warlord admitted he once feared humans more than any other race. Now, he said, I fear a galaxy without them. Elric Graves, final. Lee stood. He looked around the circle and spoke with a voice quiet but strong. We did not leave to start war, he said. We left because we were tired of begging for respect. He paused. When we walked away, we didn't shut the door. We simply waited for others to knock for the right reasons. Outside the summit dome, new human ships floated peacefully in orbit. No weapons shown, no threat in sight, but every species knew. If those ships had to move, they would end wars before they began. Because now Earth had not only earned trust, it had become the balance, the center, not by force, but by silence. Back on the Council's homeworld, the last historian of the old government finished writing the final report. He closed the ancient records, sealed the archives, and on the cover he wrote 5 words. They left, and we crumbled. Then he shut off the lights and walked away. The age of the Council was over. In a small classroom on a distant colony, a young girl raised her hand. Teacher, she asked, why did the humans never return to the Council? The teacher smiled gently and said, because they learned something most of us didn't. Sometimes the strongest answer is to walk away. And Earth? Earth never shouted, never boasted, never demanded its crown. It simply lived by one rule carved into stone at the entrance of every Human Accord station. Respect is not given, it's earned. As stars turned and empires faded, the story of Earth remained, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as the ones who walked away when no one listened, and returned only when the galaxy was ready to hear the silence.